Hello, welcome to Chapter 10 in the Dialogues, the goal and the accomplishment of the elevated self of form. So this whole idea of the elevated self of form can be a little bit tricky because our natural tendency when we have experienced ourselves as individuated is wanting to bring that individuated self into a better state of being. This whole idea of improving the self is a fallacy, and that's actually what this chapter is trying to address. So verse 1, what is found outside the boundary of the personal self in the wider circle of unity is timeless. So we're going back to the idea from the previous chapter that the little dot is a symbol of the self in form, the personal self that we are all experiencing while we're in this world of form. And the larger circle, which actually isn't a circle and doesn't actually have boundaries, but we use it just for the sake of example, is the one. All that is, big consciousness, which is actually our true self. So our true self has voluntarily taken on the limitations of form and the limitations of an individualized identity, because that's the experience that the one wanted in order to individuate so it could see itself and respond to itself and express itself and expand itself and see itself in a new light. And without individuating, everything is contained in the one. So without individuating and taking on a filter, which is really what we're doing, then it can't know itself because there's no differentiation. Everything is the same. So just a little overview of that whole point of view. So returning then to the slide, these are ways of knowing that come to you outside the pattern of learning. And it's referring, of course, to talents, ideas, imagination, inspiration, instinct, intuition, vision, and calling. So all of those things, none of those things have you learned. It's not possible to learn them. The thinking mind doesn't have that, can't offer that. So if we look at those things, there's a recognition that they come from somewhere else. And we're looking at those as they come from the bigger one, from the bigger consciousness, which the differentiated consciousness is contained within the bigger consciousness. It's not different from, even though it's black, it looks like it's a different color. In actuality, it's all the same stuff. It's just taken on this flavor for this experience. So verse 2. Learning is about the transfer of knowledge that was gained in the time of learning through the process of learning. So it was really, there's nothing wrong with the system of learning. In fact, it brought you here. You've learned things, and because you learned things, you were able to come to this point in your development. But it has real limitations, and we're moving past the time of learning. If you think your hard work is needed to bring your givens forward, you're operating from the personal self. So the personal self says, hey, I have this talent, I have these ideas, now let me apply them and make them come to fruition in the world of form. Let's apply everything I've learned and everything that I have access to, and through my intention and my will, I'm going to express these in the world. And that is a very common way of processing, because we are so accustomed to the time of learning and gaining through learning. But that's not what's being asked for here. So we need to be really clear about that. Nobody is asking you to take the inspiration that you get and through your willpower, make it manifest in the world. Continuing with the review, that isn't union. It's seeking a new and improved personal self. And the self of unity needs no improvement. Like, what? This is the way I've operated. I've been wanting to get these things from the eternal space and manifest them in the world of form. Isn't that what I'm supposed to do? And that's where our mind generally goes. But just hang in there and hold that and recognize that that's not what's being asked here. Just start with that as we move forward. You might think that since the expression happens in time and space, expression must happen from the individual self. I mean, that would make sense, right? I'm in a physical world. I'm having a physical experience. I've got this and really wonderful, amazing stuff, this vision and inspiration and ideas and calling that's being brought to my awareness, and certainly I need to express it in time and space. So let me apply what I know to do that. Drop that. Verse 4. You may feel that to think of this in any other way will leave you with no individual personal accomplishment, nothing to be proud of, nothing to call your own. You thus must begin to realize that the bringing forth of the accomplishment that already exists in unity is your new work, the work of the self of union, the work that can fill you with the true joy of true accomplishment. Because it is your real work, work with what is. Pardon me. Okay, so we have this idea like, I've been looking my whole life to do something meaningful in the world, and now if you take that away from me, I'm not going to have that. And that feels like what I've been seeking. But what this is about is not taking your inspiration and making something new of it through your physical self, but the recognition that who you actually are already exists in unity. It's already there. It doesn't need to be birthed. It's already there. Verse 5. Working with what is in unity is not work, but relationship. It is in that relationship, the relationship between what is and the expression of what is by the elevated self of form, that the new is created. So it's not created through learning, and it's not created through will. It's created through relationship. So we need to go back and think about what is relationship. Relationship is joining what is. So when the talents, ideas, imagination, inspiration, instinct, intuition, vision, and calling are recognized, we join with that. We join with, oh, here is this talent. And I'm going to be in relationship with the talent. Now, how do I do that? If I'm in relationship with my talent, the other things come into play too, like maybe a calling rises up and says, wow, I really, really want to do that. I really want to express in that way because there's something within me. It's not something from my head. It's not an idea of who I want to be. It's not an image. It's not an identity. It's something from within that says, hey, I would like to try that. The same with inspiration and instinct and all the rest. It comes from within, and it comes from discovery. So it's not you saying, hey, I was born with this talent to sing, and here's what I'm going to do with it. It's, this is here, and what? As I align myself with my higher self. And as I live in unity, I discover, am I going to express that today? And something will come up from within, and it will be like a breadcrumb trail. Like, hey, this would feel, I have this idea. Let me try this. This feels good today. Now let me go here. So it's all present moment. It's not envisioning a future or building towards something. I can assure you that this whole set of videos that I'm presenting in these PowerPoints was not a vision. I didn't have an idea. I didn't know what was happening. It was all breadcrumb trails. And I could go into it, but I'm not going to, because this is about you. But as you follow the breadcrumb trails of the desire that come to you through being in unity, in relationship with whatever is present now, expression is inevitable. You don't have to have a plan and goals and do anything that doesn't come from that deep inner desire and resource. In this way, continuing with verse 5, sharing in relationship becomes the goal and the accomplishment of the elevated self of form, the means through which the self of union is known, even in the realm of separation, and thus what draws others from separation to union. So when you're sharing in relationship with the bigger consciousness, and you're living from that place of awareness of what is coming from this bigger circle, this bigger access, and you're just in relationship with it, and you're moving with that. There's not that's your goal. Your goal is to tune into that now. That's the only goal. To discover what's here now. To discover what's being asked, or where I'm being called, or what I'm inspired to do, what ideas are happening. That's your goal. And it's all present moment. And it's also the accomplishment. So we don't need, a 5-year plan. We don't need a 5-minute plan. The self of unity tunes in to what's happening now and moves from there, because that's being in union. And in union means that small self is in union and working in harmony with the big self, and everything is flowing from that space. If you are content with an individual experience of what you've been given, you don't complete the cycle of giving and receiving as one. I mean, it's that. You're not developing in the same way, that you're not functioning at the same level that you could be. And, a lot of people have done this. I myself have done it. I think probably all of us have done it to some degree when we first discover spirituality, and we form a belief system around it, and we form an identity around it, and it becomes part of us. It becomes part of our identity in the world. I'm a spiritual person. I'm a person who does this. I'm a person who does that. And we're actually using what we've learned to create our own individual experience, and have adopted it as part of our identity. Like, I'm a person who likes pickles, or I'm a person who likes to wear jeans, whatever. It's just that spirituality is so much more than an attribute of a human being. It's like spirituality is life itself. This is the way of creation. When we are living and working in harmony with the larger one and moving from that space, that's where creation happens. In verse 7, in this time of Christ, discovery is about acceptance of your true way of knowing, a way that existed prior to the time of learning and that has always existed. So this tells us that this is how we have always functioned. This is our way of expanding and expressing, by discovering what's here in the present moment. And that's the nature of creation. The nature of creation isn't about time and space. It isn't about setting goals and accomplishing them and working toward them and making things manifest and making things happen. That's not creation. That's the mind. Creation is about interacting with what's here. When you put this into practice and allow it to replace the pattern of learning, the way of discovery will be your way of knowing, and you will delight in participating in the expansion of creation through form. And you won't have to try. You won't have to concentrate on it. As you function from that space and in that way, creation happens because this is its nature. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to talking with you in the next chapter.